Happy Saturday morning. I just realized I promised that you guys that I would post the open mic video yesterday, and of course I forgot. Ooh, that's bright back there. So here we are on a lovely Saturday morning. Actually, it's gross outside. I just finished doing, I don't know if you can see the little men, a little military battle with my son, which I thought was very apropos of the battles that are happening in The Last Man that kind of bleed right into the plague arriving. So I want us to kind of pick up on something that we said during our class discussion about passion. And just what is the role that all these passions are going to play that these characters feel, these sort of really extreme emotions. And I want to think about passion versus reason and sort of what is the balance of that. And for me, this kind of connects to this issue of knowledge as well. What kind of knowledge is valued in the novel? So you can think about this in all kinds of ways, but I'm going to give you just a couple of passages that kind of crystallizes this for me. One is on page 181, and it's when Evadne gives her prophecy. Let me see what chapter that is. Sorry, this is really shaky because I'm holding the phone instead of standing in one spot. It's in volume 2, near the beginning of volume 2. Oh, it's chapter 12. So it's in the first chapter of volume 2. And Evadne kind of makes her prophecy. She says, let's see, as her strength grew less, this is page 181 if you're in the Oxford edition, and the paragraph begins, as her strength grew less, I lifted her from the ground, her emaciated form hung over my arm, and then a little more description of her, and then she says, this is the end of love, yet not the end, and frenzy lent her strength as she cast her arm up to heaven. There is the end, there we meet again. Many living deaths have I borne for thee, O Raymond, and now I expire thy victim. By my death I purchase thee. Lo, the instruments of war, fire, the plague are my servitors. I dared, I conquered them all, till now I have sold myself to death, with the sole condition that thou shouldst follow me. Fire and war and plague unite for thy destruction. O my Raymond, there is no safety for thee. So she says this sort of like a prophecy, right? Sort of a foreshadowing of some things that might happen to Raymond. And then in the next chapter, chapter 13, page 195, the paragraph begins, we were interrupted by an attendant who announced that the staff of Raymond was assembled in the council chamber. He requested me in the meantime to ride through the camp and to observe and report to him the dispositions of the soldiers. He then left me. I had been excited to the utmost by the proceedings of the day, and now more than ever by the passionate, there's our word again, language of Raymond. Alas, for human reason! He accused the Greeks of superstition. What name did he give to the faith he lent to the predictions of Evadne? Right? So here we have Lionel sort of questioning what is that line between passion and reason, and how do people define it? So Raymond is upset at what he's calling the superstitions and how the Greeks are viewing the war and the oncoming plague, and yet he is giving credence to Evadne and kind of accepting, yes, I'm probably going to die. And so I want you to kind of think of another example in the reading that you've done since Wednesday. Where do we see this passion versus reason kind of pitted against one another, or attempts to define the line between passion and reason? And you can also extend that out to just forms of knowledge in general. Where do you see that working in the novel? And of course, this question is more pressing and more interesting now that the plague has arrived. Because, of course, we have all kinds of different reactions to the plague, and some that the characters would define, characters, I suppose, meaning Lionel, would define as reasonable reactions to the plague, some that would be defined as irrational or superstitious. So those are just some examples of things that you could pull out. So I would love for you to point us to another moment in the novel where we see reason and passion sort of pitted against one another, and then for you to just kind of puzzle over what does the novel at this point seem to be saying about reason and passion?